Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I want to talk about mid-lane mage itemization because it's in a pretty terrible state at the moment, and I think we can all kind of agree on that. The boards have been talking about it extensively, and even looking at professional builds, looking at champions like Orianna build, you kind of see some weirdities with what they're building and when they're building, and it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And today I wanted to kind of talk about why the problem exists, that there is a problem in the end, and what we might be able to do to fix it. Because mage itemization at the moment just doesn't feel that great. Now, there are a lot of items with a lot of unique effects, which I think is excellent. I think that's one of the better advantages mages have over AD carries, is that they're not looking for more damage options. Instead, they have the option of being able to build slight amounts of utility, something like Ludens to help with wave clear, or Rylai's to get more slows, that kind of thing. I think that's all great. The problem is, mages don't feel very good about their itemization because a couple of factors in how they build and what they build are off a little bit. In that, first of all, you have to build mana first in almost every matchup as a mage. There's almost no mages without, with exceptions like Azir, who kind of rushes other items first, but pretty much every mage will build a mana item first. And the biggest problem right there is that mana items are delaying their power spike by too much. An AD carry, for example, can build Essence Reaver into Zeal and feel pretty decent about where they're at in the early game, whereas a mage, before they can really start building damage or building utility items, they have to get a mana item first, and that's pretty disappointing. Especially is compounded by the fact that there's really only one meta mana item, and that's Morellonomicon, and that's because that item is simply overloaded. It grants way too many useful stats, it has way too many useful passives, and mages effectively have no reason to build anything other than Morellonomicon. That's the only item they want and the only item they need. And when you compare it to its competitors, you see why that's the case. Rod of Ages defers its power for too long, and also has the added disadvantage of granting a lot of health, which most mages don't care about and don't want. Whereas meanwhile, Tear of the Goddess just can't be stacked on mages. Even if you are able to play a champion unless you're able to play a champion that spams it like Karthus, you just don't have the option of being able to build it because you'll never be able to get it stacked in time to where it'll become viable, unless you want to rush an Archangel staff, and that leads to all sorts of other issues. The other biggest problem with mages is that their core multiplier item, Rabadon's Death Cap, isn't really viable for a host of reasons. Again, I hate to compare it to AD carry itemization, but AD carries, they have Infinity Edge as their multiplier item, and that feels great to build. You want to get the BF sword early, you follow that up with a Zeal to multiply the damage from your BF sword, it grants you some crit, so when you finish the Infinity Edge, you have a reasonable amount of crit left, and then you turn that Zeal item into one of several other attack speed items, all of which have great stats, and various different reasons for building them, and you end up with a pretty solid build by mid-game. Sure, you'll only get stronger as the game goes on, and there are other things you're going to want, but that's pretty much the core of what you need. Mages, meanwhile, don't quite have that. Rabadon's only grants AP, and there are no other useful stats, and it grants percentage AP, which is great if you've already got an AP item built. However, because you can't realistically just build AP immediately, you have to get the mana item, Rabadon's ends up feeling like crap. It also has the added disadvantage of being not granting that much AP until it's finished, and having a very crappy build path and taking a long time to get prepared, basically, to get finished. And the problem with that is that AD carries are reliant on their auto attacks for damage, which means that they don't have to have mana. An AD carry, a Lucian with 0 mana, is still relevant just by the fact that he can right-click someone for damage. A mage, meanwhile, if they're out of mana, they don't do anything, they don't have any spells, and they're overly dependent on having to have high amounts of ability power to make their few ability casts worth it. Most mages can't just infinitely spam. Cassiopeia is a good example. If you land a Q and you immediately start using your E on somebody, you're going to piss through your mana very, very quickly, and that makes it difficult to keep out a steady, sustained stream of damage. Mages are dependent on having to make every single spell cast work, and when you don't have that much AP or that much mana, it becomes difficult to work with. So most mages can't build their multiplier scaling item. And this has implications on their mid-game presence. Now they're not spiking in the mid-game if they do end up going for Death Cap. It ends up deferring their power for too long. By the time they finally get Death Cap and get enough AP to make it worthwhile, AD carries are already dominating the game. So instead, what most mages are doing is defaulting to Power Now, which is they buy both of the penetration items, Void Staff and Liandry's Torment, and try to do the best they can from there, so that way they don't fall behind in terms of damage output. That's kind of a big problem. I think that having to buy penetration items early in order to do anything in the mid game, which is where mages should be strongest, is a bit of an issue. And the fact that their multiplier item isn't being built at all, that would be like if no AD carries were building Infinity Edge. That's a problem if no one is building Rabadon's Death Cap, except in very rare situations. So clearly, something has to be done. I also think that Liandry's having a mixed damage profile is a problem. It builds out of Haunting Guise, which Haunting Guise is basically the brutalizer of Mage Itemization. You build it early because it gives you some early pen, it gives you some health, it helps you win these trades. But then it builds in Liandry's Torment, which has percentage pen, which is a tank buster, not flat pen, which is going to get squishies. It's weird. Put it this way, it needs to have a more refined identity. But anyways, so mages basically rush Morello, they have to go double pen, they don't have that many options of build paths, mana itemization is terrible, there are a lot of issues with how mages are building and what they're building, and I think that Riot need to take another pass and look at the items mages are building in order to get them to a point where you do have flexible build paths like AD carries do, and you are getting that mid-game power spike like they did in the past. Now, I think that there are a couple of ways to help alleviate some of these issues. First is that Morellonomicon has to be nerfed. It's too good of a choice in almost every single situation. You will never build anything but a Morellonomicon. It's that good. So that needs to be nerfed, and I think the other Mage Itemization needs to be buffed as well. It needs some kind of substantial rework or change to Rod of Ages, Hextech Gloop, and Tear of the Goddess. Tear, I don't know what you do. That's starting to increasingly look like a dated item to me personally. There are very few mages that actually use it. It needs to potentially grant some stacks every few seconds, or to have a better build path for Archangel Staff, so that way mages can kind of build it and not feel terrible if they can't stack it as effectively. It might always be niche, but that's fine. GLP and Roa, meanwhile, I think need to have a better mana profile and better reasons to exist. I would love it, actually, if GLP had basically less power in the active and more power stat-wise, and hopefully both these items would grant less health and more AP. I think that mages really do need this. And now, I know a lot of people are screaming now, but what about AP Bruisers? I think AP Bruiser itemization is actually really good at the moment. I don't know that Rod of Ages getting nerfed would affect them too much. It definitely would, but I would love to see Rod of Ages or maybe a new item introduced that can compete with Morellonomicon in the mana space. I think Rabadon's needs either a better build path or reduce costs. Sitting on 1,700 gold before you can get your Rabadons is quite frankly pretty ridiculous, and I do think that that needs to be reduced so that way mages can feel better about building their core scaling item, their core multiplier item. Alternatively, just needs a better build path. Maybe you have it build out of an Ether Wisp at some point, maybe you double Blasting Wand or something that makes a mage feel better about trying to go for Rabadon's Death Cap. And then Liandry's, as we mentioned before, needs a better purpose and a fixed identity. If it's the percentage penetration item, it needs to be the percentage penetration item, as opposed to just kind of being both and not really either at the same time. Besides that, I think Mage Itemization is in a reasonable spot. I think that the core issue is because mages are just trying to go for raw AP and can't build that. They run into problems, and so I hope that Riot do take another pass at Mage Itemization and maybe fix some of these problems that we just discussed. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Go ahead and let me know what you guys think about Mage Itemization and the changes I've discussed down in the comment section below. Maybe I'm full of crap. Maybe you guys have better ideas. I'd love to hear them. Go ahead and leave your comments. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And if you're hungry for more Grab the Lantern content, go ahead and check out my blog, grabthelantern.tumblr.com. I upload an article just about every single day, so you can constantly have some Grab the Lantern content going for you. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.